Hello my friends, welcome back to another art session. This is Marcy from Prints and Paints. As usual, it's good to see you. So today guys, we're going to be working on a much larger mandala. I know that in the past I have done a few here and there, but I wanted to focus on doing a much larger mandala today. The reason that I am going to be doing this is because I have a new product that I want to show you guys. Actually, we have a few new products, so I want to introduce those to you and incorporate them into our mandalas. Without further ado, I'm going to show you the products and then I'll show you the mandala and then we'll combine them all towards the end and start painting. So the new product that I have, I've noticed in the world of dotting that the Temu metal inserts are a huge hot commodity. And as much as I love them, I prefer not to order things overseas. I like to support small businesses within the country. I have decided to utilize my X-Tool laser cutter and make my own insert cutouts. These cutouts will be made of wood and they won't be made of metal, and you will be able to color them yourself. So I found that was going to be something that was challenging but also fun because it's like a coloring book. I'm going to show you two different ones I have so far. You will be able to find these on my Etsy and they'll come in a 3-pack. You can color them, you can do whatever you want with them, but I'm going to show you right now. So they will be 8-inch round inserts. I will have a couple different themes going on so you can check in the drop down menu of which ones you'd like to purchase. But they will come in a 3-pack. They are made of basswood and they are about an 1/8 inch thick. They're 8 inches round, so they can go in the center or you can just paint them like this. It really doesn't matter. Today we're going to be focusing all about mushrooms. This is that time of year where it's been raining, it's sucky wet out, and it's just, the mushrooms are thriving, right? I'm a big fan of doing macro photography as well, and I can show you a few images right now if you want to see some of my photography. I do love doing mushrooms, and so this week I really wanted to focus on doing magic mushrooms. So this in particular is going to be mushroom themed. So these 3 that I have are mushrooms. So you have this one, it's a celestial with the butterfly and the mushroom. They're really beautiful. I love them. They are engraved from the laser cutter that I did design all of these myself as well. So we have this one, and then I also have this one. This one is what we're focusing on this week, and so I can show you a finished product of this one. And if you want to get these, you can. Another example I have is like going camping. So I did ones of mountain themes. These are the ones I did color. So they do look like this when you receive them, and then you can color them. So I did this one, I have this one, and then I have this one. And these were colored with just basic acrylic markers. I can show you the products that I used. So I've been a big fan of Artistro art supplies for quite some time now, and I recently paired up with them and became an affiliate for them. So I have a nice 10% discount on any Artistro that I can share with you. If you want to look on the screen, if you just use the code Prints and Paints, you can receive 10% off any Artistro products on their website. So these are acrylic dual tip markers. There's 24 in the pack. They are fantastic. This is the colors that you will receive. And I just really like these because I like acrylic markers. Acrylic markers are like paint markers versus regular markers. They have more of a pigment to them. So this is like markers if you notice, and then this is acrylic. You can really see that difference between what acrylic can do, and you can take them and you can mix them together. You can do many different things as if you're painting. They're really fantastic. The dual tip is a fine tip at the end of one end, and then it's a 1 millimeter, so it's just like a basic small marker tip. And then the other end I really like using, and this is the brush tip. So this is about close to 5 millimeters, and it's a flat long tip. And this is nice for blending, and these are good for like doing outlines. And I really like them. If you like to paint even on rocks and things like that, these are great markers. So if you want to check that out, go ahead. I'll leave links in the description for Artistro brands. They're really not very expensive. They're your average price for markers and things like that, but they're really fantastic. I use these today to create my mushroom. So I used these to color in my reds and all of these. And with that, I started with this, and that's where I drew my inspiration for my color palette. I started out with just coloring this in with my markers. And then from there, I said, what is my background going to be? I wanted it to be something subtle, something feminine, and something that goes well with these colors that I did choose. These pinks, these purples, a little bit of yellow, the book binding brown. And so I found that I liked the blush pink. So my one color, which is my base color, is the Deco Art blush pink color. And by doing this, I just made a wash. A wash is basically just doing 1 part of paint to about almost 4 parts water. You're really watering it down to make like a watercolor. And you just brush it on very lightly in the places that you want, and then you wipe it away with a damp cloth. And you can see that the wood grain still likes to shine through, but it makes this nice pink color. So that is we're gonna go into the color palette that we're choosing. So this is our base color, this is our blush pink. And then from there, I worked my way up into the colors I want. So the book, like the book pages, I used the Folk Art Matte Vintage White. Now this is like an off-white, but it's really nice. And then from there, I wanted a red for the caps of the mushrooms, so I went with Country Red for the Deco Art. You can use either Tuscan Red, you can use Santa Red, there are so many different reds. This one is a little bit darker, I'd say, than the average primary red, but it really doesn't matter, it's your preference. The greens, I have 3, so I basically wanted to do a shade, I wanted to do a mid-tone, and I wanted to do a highlight. So I have 3 here where I don't have to mix the colors to make a monochromatic. I made the monochromatic by choosing different color greens, if that makes sense. So my shade is going to be lush green. And then I'm also using some other kinds of paints. Obviously, I'm using Folk Art as well. If you find something that's similar in Deco Art, please go right ahead and do that. I'm using Basil Green for my mid-tone. And then for the highlight, I'm going to use Wild Wasabi, and that's just like a light green shade. And then I also did the same thing with my yellows. So my yellows, I have 3 as well. So my highlight is going to be Saffron Yellow. Again, if you want to use Cad Yellow, Golden Yellow, any of those light tones is fine. The mid-tone, I'm going to use Deep Ochre. So these are very similar almost. And then for my shade, I'm going to use this is one of the newest paints that they offer, is Salted Caramel. I love this color. It's almost like a mustardy yellow. And then the last one is a brown, and this is just the bookbind that I found to be interesting for that. And so I'm using Portobello. If you don't have Portobello, any kind of brown is fine. I just liked this more clay ashy brown versus a chocolate brown. It's on the cool side versus warm. So that's our color palette, guys. Those are the paints that we're going to be using. Again, if you want to get these, I will be selling them in a 3-pack on my Etsy, so that's your discretion if you want to do this, but you can always do something else, that's fine. I wanted to get into the world of offering inserts and something that like you can do yourself. I think it's more rewarding when you can create something versus just buying a metal insert, right? I don't know. I did take my paints and I mixed them already, so I'm using 15 ml pots. You don't have to use this big, but I just like to have them on hand. I only mixed about halfway up, so I did about 1 part paint to 1 part matte medium to mix my paints. You don't have to do this so much if you're using deco art, but I still like to because I like the consistency that it makes when it starts to dry. So that's my preference. You don't have to do that. I'm also going to be using my basic stylists. So I'm using my 5 stylists that I have usually, the basic ones. I have my micro dotter from Happy Dotting Company. And then these are the ones that I usually give in my kit, so you can follow along with mine that I use is perfectly fine. I will be probably using just a few brushes, probably about the 0 and the 2-0, I'd say, for the XTD. If you want to use thoughtful dots, any of those, that's fine too. A watercolor pencil to make my guides, right? We're going to, I like to use my ruler. You don't have to use that, but I like to use my ruler to make my guidelines. If you want to use a compass, go right ahead. I also am going to be using these small mirrors, just as small embellishments. These are those teardrop shapes. They're roughly about, I'd say, 1 inch in length. So that's your discretion if you want to use these. I like to use these on occasion with my much larger mandalas. So we'll use some of those. And then we're going to need glue to glue them down. So I like to use Gorilla Clear Grip. This is a very quick bonding type of glue and it dries clear, so it's easy to clean up. I also might use these. So this is also something that I'm going to be offering on Etsy. So I found, just like with the embellishments with the mirrors, I thought it would be fun to make little teardrops out of wood. Now these can be colored or they can be left as is. They are a variety of different little mushrooms. So I'm probably going to offer some nature ones, some mushroom ones, and then probably some sacred geometry shapes as well. But you can see they're cute little wooden pieces and they have engraved mushroom caps and tops on them. So I thought these would be nice to maybe incorporate into our mandalas. I will offer these in a large quantity of bags that you can purchase as well. So those are all the items that we're going to use today, guys. So let's get out our large mandala and I'm going to show you how we start this out. So this is my mandala. I know I'm zoomed out quite a bit. It is much larger than what it appears to be. This is a 20-inch round mandala, so if you are using the ruler, you're going to want to tack in the center of your MDF, and then you're going to want to measure out 10 inches all the way around. Draw your circle, cut it out, and then I used the blush pink as my base color. And then I also have my insert. So this is my 8-inch insert. I did mark on each of these lines here where this was going to sit, so I know where I'm starting working my way out. If we do this right, you should have been 1, 2, 3, 16 lines out from the center. And that is doing every 1/4 of an inch marking. So again, here is my center. What I do like to make sure I do is that when I do my grids, I do my 1/4 inch circles all the way around out. And then I did 16 segments all the way around. So these are those vertical lines that you see, the horizontal, the X's. These are segment lines. When I lay this down, I want to make sure that bookbind there, going straight up, is lined with one of my segment lines. I don't want it being centered in the middle here so much. I want it to be centered straight down. And that's just going to help keep what I'm painting on the outside more uniformed to this. And that is just a basic placement on our mandalas. So we can start painting this perimeter now, and we're gonna incorporate a lot of different things, guys. So get out your supplies. Let's get started. So I'm sorry, I apologize. I forgot to mention that I'm also using my happy dotting tools. If you have something else, that's perfectly fine. You can always find a conversion chart of what numbers I'm using versus what numbers you have. So I'm going to remove this for now and set it aside. This will be my inspiration for my colors. And I'm going to focus on, again, the 16th line out. We're moving out from there. So this is basically our center point, right? Going all the way around. I am going to start with a basic row of dots just to border out that insert. And then from there, we can start working our way out. I am going to use the 5.5 dotting tool. And I'm going to go with my country red first. I think that would be a nice contrast to working on the circle. So some of these scenes, obviously, I'm going to speed up because it is such a large piece. It's going to take quite some time. So I will show you how to do this, and then we'll speed it up. I'll add some music so we can relax and enjoy it. And then we'll go into each step together. So starting with this, we're going to do 5.5 tool, and I'm just doing right below the 16th line and that negative space there in between 16 and 17 line. We're going to do a row of red dots. At this time, I did finish the perimeter ring here. And I'm just going in with a really small dotting stylus, and I like to pop any bubbles that I see that have formed either while mixing my paints or just laying down dots. I find that if you don't do this step, then sometimes they will dry and you will see the bubbles, and maybe I'm a perfectionist, but I don't like to see that. So I'm just going in each dot and looking around at them to make sure that any bubbles that have formed will be gone. I think we're good. Let's move on. So now at this point, I'm going to take some of my teardrop mirrors. I'm just going to choose one of these segments and just know that this is my bottom that's straight on. So when the book is laying in there, the binder is going to match up with that. And I just did a little tick mark X so I know. We're going to do every other line. So if I'm starting at this base down here, I'm going to do 3 mirrors. So what I want to do is I'm just carefully, without getting it into my red, if you want to pause this for a moment and let that dry first, that's perfectly fine. But I am going to lay out some mirrors just to see how this looks. So I'm just taking 2 for these next 2 open spaces I have. I'm lining them up onto that segment line there. So they're going to be mirrored. And then I'm going to take another one and put it right underneath the middle of the 2. So that the middle point here is resting on that segment line. I'm going to skip this line because they're too close together, so we'll do every other one. So once I have that mapped out, I can get a better understanding of how it's going to look. Now, I did do a quick cutout of my mirror on a little stencil here from my laser cutter. You can always just use the mirror itself, but what we're probably going to want to do, because we don't want the mirrors staying on here now and gluing them, because we're going to want to varnish. And I feel that varnishing with these on can really open up for big mistakes. And you can get varnish on the mirrors and then they might never get a nice sheen to them, and you might have some residue on there. That's really hard to clean unless you're using like a really strong alcohol, and then you're running the risk of just making the paint come off, things like that. So the mirrors we're going to do very last. That's going to be one of the last things that we put on this project. So with saying that, like I said, we can just take the mirror if you want. We're going to trace it out with our pencil though, just so that we know our outline of where our placement's going to be. I like to use this, but unfortunately I just did my red here, so I can't really put this down because it's going to squish my dots. So I'm going to work just like you, and I'm probably going to either use my little cutout or wait till it dries, and then we're going to make that design. So again, we're going to do mirrors on every other line. Use your baseline as your starting point, and then skip these two and do these two, skip these and do these two, and keep going. And that's where we're going to do, and then we'll meet back and we'll finish that up. So what I basically did was I mapped out all of my mirrors. Hopefully you can see that. We'll zoom in real quick just so you can see. So I took my mirrors, I just did the outline like I said. I didn't want to wait for this to dry, so I just carefully put my mirrors down and traced them out. I did the two top first up against each other mirrored, and then I did the second one, the third one down this way. What we want to do now is just do a series of walking dots around these shapes, and then once everything is finished we can glue the mirrors back in. So I'm going to get out my size 4 stylus, and we're going to go in with our green shades. I think I'm going to start with the darker shade first and work my way out. So we're going to go in with the lush green. And I'm basically going to dot at the base of where my mirror will lay. I always do one dot first, and then I go back in and I do another dot, and then I walk my dot up. Sometimes I feel if you do one dot and then walk it up, you tend to lose paint up in this area. So I like to have the 3 base of them all the same size. So I'm going to do that, and I'm also going to do it on this end. So I'm just going to walk up. I'm not going to do that extra dot only because there's not much space there. This one I'm going to do an extra dot though, because I am going all the way up. Again, on this end we're going to do the same thing. I'm only walking it up until I can. I'm not going to overlap the red dots. So this is what we're getting out of this, and then we're gonna build on that with our two other colors. So to show you, I'll do one demonstration and then we can all do them at our own pace. So that's the lush green. Now we're going to move into doing our other colors. So now I'm moving into my basil green. And again, I'm going to dot right below, and then I'm going to do one dot like this, and then I'm going to walk it up. I'm going to dot this side, and I'm going to walk it up. Same thing over here. And then the last color is the wild wasabi, the lightest shade green. Now with this I'm going to do something a little different. So I'm just going to dot the base, and then I'm just going to do one dot here and one dot here, and then from there I'm going to do a swoop, because it's just going to tie it all in together. So one there, one there. This swoop's going to be obviously very small, if anything. Just like that. And then with our brush, I'm going to use the 2-0. I'm going to go in with my green. I'm going to start at the base here, push down lightly and then pull up and meet in that center portion. Just like that. If you need to turn your mandala to get that right movement, go right ahead. So again, push and then pull up. This one's going to be really not much to it. It's almost like a little swoop, a little swoosh there. And then this side. There we go. So we should get something that looks like this. That looks great. So we're going to do that for each of these as well. So once again, guys, I'm just going to go through my swooshes and my swoops that I did here and my dots just to make sure that there are no air bubbles lingering in anything that I don't want there. I like to do this in separate steps so that I know once I finish this layer, then we can keep going. We can keep, so we'll do this and then we'll get all the bubbles out. And then what I'm going to show you is those little wooden mushrooms. So the mushrooms, obviously it's an option if you want to do it. If you don't, that's fine. You can always use more mirrors or your own design. But doing mushrooms, so I'm going all out with them. Sorry if you hear some loud banging kind of noises. It's actually thundering out right now. We've been getting hammered with lots of rain. I've noticed out in the west they've been having fires, and we're getting hit with lots of rain. Not to the point where it's flooding. I do really feel for the people down south of me in Virginia and Maryland. They're really getting hit hard with flash floods, so my prayers go out to them. I really hope they're doing it down there. So like I said, we finished this beautiful design. Once we're finished, the mirrors are going to go inside those little areas. And so now I have these little tiny mushroom teardrops. So I have quite a bit here. It looks like I have about 5 of each one. So there's about 50 of these. Now, of course, I have 5 shapes. However, I have 6 openings here. I think it's 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, 7, 8. We have 8. Sorry. So to make it even, I'm going to have to take one of these away and then just use 4 each or whatever I want to do, or 1 each. I think I'm going to choose the big cap here. So we've got, I don't know if you can zoom in and see that. So we have this one. I'm going to put these in between this little area right here. We have the traditional cap. Usually these are red. And I'm just going to make sure that I'm lining them up on the same line and down that center segment. I think I'm also going to use this little guy. So this is similar. It's, there we go. It's hard to see, sorry. And then, so it's a toss-up between these two. I think I'm gonna go with this one. So sorry, buddy, but you're ixnayed. And then what we'll do is we'll just get 2 of each and then just keep going. So see, they're super cute. I love them. And I think I can go back through if I want to color them. I absolutely can. But I can glue them down now just so that they're ready to go, because they're not mirrors and they're going to need to be varnished anyway because they are wood. So I think I'm going to glue them down right now so I know where they want to be. And then after that, we're going to basically, I'm going to do like opposite ends. So if this one's here, it's over there. And then we're going to do some painting around them. And like I said, if I want to go back in with my markers, once my paint's dry and I don't put my hand in my paint, I can color these in, which is great. So I'm just going to lay these down for now. I found these to be really cute. I've seen like lots of the rhinestone embellishments and everybody's doing those rhinestone things, but nobody does natural wood. And so I said to myself, I want to do something different. I love nature. I'm all about natural items. I know paint isn't natural per se, but technically you can make your own paints by just using things from outside. You can make pigments with certain things. So there we go, guys. These I'm going to put aside. I might use them again down here, but we'll see what happens. So there we go. There's our cute little mushrooms. I can zoom in a bit. That's as far as I can get. Sorry, guys. But so you can see, so we can glue these down. You can either use wood glue or you can use the Gorilla Glue. I'm probably going to use the Gorilla Glue just because it glues a lot quicker. And so I'm going to glue these down, and then we can go in and start doing some design. We're really focusing on this little area right in here. We're going to do something here and then bring it down to where they're all starting a new layer here. So that is our negative space we want to fill in for this part, and then after that we can keep going down. And there we go, guys. So we finished gluing down these. I don't want to move them too much because it is still a little tacky and wet, so I'm really just focusing on making sure that they're lined up with the same guideline going all the way around. I don't want one up higher than the other, because once we start doing painting, you don't want one to be shorter than the other. So really just focus on that you're laying them down on the same guideline. The guidelines are the round ones, remember. And then the point, I'm lining them up with my segment line, just so they're straight on. And it's pretty self-explanatory. It's pretty easy to follow. Just like I said, make sure that none shift, none move. You just want to make sure that they're going to dry nice and straight. Now what we can do is I'm gonna probably go back into doing these a little bit later on, but I probably feel like I'm gonna do another pink wash with the same blush like I did with the center. So I'm gonna water this down heavily and just fill in this area. Even if I fill this in, you will see it, so I'll just be able to wipe it off and have this pink so it's not a raw wood color. If you want to do it and keep it wood, like, that's perfectly fine too. And then what I'll do is with my acrylic markers, probably go in and just kind of color these up just a bit, just to have some pop of color. I'm going to go with the same scheme of my palette that I have, the color palette, just so that they are all uniformed. But in the meantime, we can focus on painting this outer portion around it, because we want to tie all this design in nicely. The colors I haven't used yet is white, portobello, and my yellows. So I think I'm going to focus on doing like a highlight of the white and then doing my yellows in this little area. So what I want to do first is probably just do either a quick walking dot around this in white, or just maybe 3 like down here, and we'll do some swoops. Let's see what we can work out. Alright, so the first thing I want to do, I decided to do a swoop only because this area is quite large and it's going to consist of me doing more walking dots than I want. So what I'm going to do is, with my size 4 stylus, I'm going to go in with my vintage white, and I'm basically just going to do 1 dot right below, and I'm going in that cross section. So it's this next guideline that you see down here, right below your teardrop. It's falling on the segment line and on that next guideline. There's basically like I said, it's a cross section. So you got that cross here going on. So 1 dot just below. So make sure it's a nice plump dot. So we're going to do that on each of those, and then I'll do the rest of them on my own. I just want to demonstrate this for you. And then with my size 0 brush for my XDT, I'm going to go in with my white. And instead of going up and around, I'm gonna go up here. So I'm gonna do one to the right and one on the left. And it should just fill in this little negative space here. So we're gonna push down so, and come around like that. And then we're gonna do it on the other side over here too. Do it nice and slowly so you get nice control. All right, so it should look like that. I'll do one more and then we can finish them up. And it's really just having some nice slow control over it and filling in that area. So there we go. So I'm going to finish working on these and then we're going to come back and do some more different colors. Alright guys, so now I finished the white swooshes, right? The swoops, whatever you want to call them guys. I do have a couple of little air bubbles here. I've been having a lot of air bubbles lately. I don't know why. I think it's just the mixing of them. I did change my medium, so I don't know if that's it, but that's alright. I'm going to stick with the size 0, and I'm going to go in with my yellows now. So I think I'm going to start with the darker one first. So I'm going to go with the salted caramel first, and then work my way out to a lighter shade. So what I want to do now is I'm basically going to go at the base of where my swoop came down. So where my green dot falls on this last guideline right here. This is my cutoff point. I don't want to go past this right here. So we got this and we got this. So we're going to work into filling in this area right here. So what I want to do is I'm going to go backwards now. So I'm going to do the base here and I'm going to go basically to the right of this segment line over in this area. And then I'm going to mirror it on the left hand side. So push down and then pull up. And I'm just falling in between where the green ends here and the white is. I'm not going to go all the way up into this area. I'm just going up and stopping here. And then I'm going to continue this swoop area with my different colors, and I'm just going to move up the line like a staircase. I'm staggering them up. So if I do these first, they're going to look like this. So they're going to fall on this line. Make sure you get a nice big plump base to yours. So really push down on that bristle. Same here, push down and then start to pull up as you get towards that green dot. The bigger the better. The big plump ones are better at this point because we want to focus on filling in this negative space. Oh boy, I just dripped. Let's clean that up real quick. Oh, there we go. And so to show you the other side now, I can go back and then we'll finish the other ones. What I want to do is just focus on this end. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to push real big and then pull up and around. If you find that you're having a hard time with doing this motion and coming up, then go to the opposite end and push down and pull away. It's up to you on how you want to control your brush. You know yourself better than anybody, so you work out that. I'll do one more here just to show you guys. So make sure you get a nice amount on your brush too. And we're going to push and then come up. And as I'm going, I'm just popping some of those little bubbles. Alright, so we're going to finish this out. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit because it seems like you guys can't see what I'm doing. And then, so we'll get that done and we'll go back in and I'll show you how to do the other two yellows. So I just finished my salted caramel color. I'm just washing my brush. And then we're going to go in with our deep ochre. So that's our mid-tone. Remember, we're going backwards now. So we just did our shade. Now we're doing our mid-tone and then we're going to do our highlight. So now that I've fallen on this line here, I'm going to go up 1. So I'm going up like in that progress. So I'm going to basically push here. Now I'm going to swoop around. And I'm really just trying to focus on that pressure of getting a nice big swoop, but also filling in this little portion in this area. And then as I go, I just pop my little bubbles. So on the other side, let's do the same thing. A little trick too, if you're not aware, if you have your brush here and you want enough on there to create this nice big flat swoop, all you have to do is dip like this, almost like you're dipping an apple into chocolate. The more you dip in, it's going to grab at that paint, and then you're going to get a nice amount on there. You want something to where it's coated over it, and then you're going to be able to push all that out, and then as you come up and around, you lift up on that so it tapers. It's quite simple once you get the hang of it. I know a lot of people still struggle with it, so be patient with yourself and take your time. If you find that it really is just not working for you as well, just try to use a dotting tool. Use a nice big dotting tool, I'd say like a size 6 maybe in the happy dotting. Dot it and then pull it up with a micro puller or something sharp. You don't have to have the best tools, I gotta say. Sometimes you can really make do with things that are just lying around at home. I found that one of the best pointer pullers that I've used was a bamboo skewer, things that you use for cooking. And then once I finished, I just tossed it out. You learn to find ways of finding better tools and mechanisms when you can't have the funds or whatever it is that you want to. Not all of us can buy things that are very expensive, especially nowadays. My goodness. The world is changing. Alright, so we're almost done here. I might as well just keep going. I won't do a time lapse on this one. We're just going to finish these out. And then from here we can go into our saffron yellow. Again, if you don't have saffron, that's quite alright. You can always use cad yellow. I think they have a bright yellow, I'm not sure. I think cad yellow would be considered a primary yellow, so it's your more traditional bright yellow. The saffron yellow, I would say, is more of a orangey hue to it, a yellow orange. You can always opt to mix a little bit of orange with your yellow if you don't have saffron. Alright, so I'm good. I'm going to clean my brush. And then we're going to open up our saffron yellow. I'd say saffron yellow and cad are almost very similar anyway. Alright, so once again guys, so it doesn't matter which one you start on, we're just going to work our way up. So I'm going up to the next line now. That's kind of where my green here started. So we're meeting in the middle here. And we're going to push and then pull up and around. You can't go all the way up because you got your green there. That's quite all right. And you're going to have a much sharper degree to push and around. So you're really just pushing down and then lifting up immediately because you don't have much to work with in that space. I do hope everyone had a wonderful Mother's Day. If you did celebrate, I had a wonderful Mother's Day. It was obviously quite hard for me, and everybody knows why. But I was able to, I did a lot for my mom that day. I built her a little tribute garden in my garden. And I got to plant some lovely lavender that she loved. And she was a big collector of little gnomes and fairies. So me and my daughter made a little fairy gnome garden for her. And it was really sweet. It was really nice tribute for her. We had a great day. We worked pretty hard, I gotta say. On Saturday we went to a nursery and we got all new plants. My mom's favorite flower was a peony, so we bought a whole bunch of peonies, and I have now a big garden of peony flowers, which I absolutely love. So I planted most of them, but it's been raining pretty much every day this week, so some of them are still kind of sitting in their pots on my deck. Hopefully I can get to it this weekend, but it's a lot of work gardening. I forgot how much. My mom and I had a tradition. Usually every Mother's Day we would go get flowers. That was our thing. My family took me out. We went out Saturday. We went out to eat. It was a great day. It was a beautiful day. And my kids helped Mom, and on Sunday we all gardened together. It was really nice. The morning I went to the cemetery and I brought her a peony, a real one, and it was nice. It was bittersweet, but it was still nice. But I still have so much more work to do in my garden. I'm trying to focus on doing a lot of landscaping, so if anybody has any tips for me, it's been tough. So there we go. There are our swoops. Yay! Alright, so we do have a little bit more going on in here. So I can do one of two things. I can do some walking dots around the outside. I can leave it as is. Or we can do something around the green as well. I'm thinking that we're going to do a big walking dot around the green and then call it a day. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to get out our size 5 stylus. That's the biggest one I have. And I'm going to go in with my white again. Not ready for you Portobello yet. Alright, so what I want to do, and I think this time I'm going to go backwards. So I'm going to do a dot in the center here, and then I'm going to walk that dot down all the way, and I'm going to do it again on this end. And I think that will tie in nicely. And then maybe I'll just do one more dot at the base. So yeah, that looks perfect. And then this way, it's not such a heavy negative space in there, because I know we struggle with that, right? To find ways of... And I didn't want to do one more big swoop there because I have no place to put it in here. So this works out way better, I think. So we're back, and I finished doing these walking dots with the white highlight. So I did them on each of the green, and it just filled in that little design that we've got going on. So we're finished with this portion. So what we want to do now is probably create another border. That's usually how I like to execute this. And from there we can either do another row of dots. I think what we're going to do is a row of either red or portobello around this, and then we'll work ourselves out from there again, probably adding a couple more mirrors and things like that. So starting, I'm gonna probably go with a little bit smaller of a dotting tool. I think I'm gonna go with a size 4 with the happy dotting tool, and I am gonna go in my portobello, and basically the next line down I'm gonna focus on that line. I'm not really going to try to get in this area because this white dot kind of fell right in that cross section, and so if I did a dot there it might overlap and they might bleed into each other. So I'm going to start with the portobello on that next cross section, just like, and I'm going to try to, the best I can with my eye, make sure that my dot is centered with this line going all the way around. So to start, I usually start on one end and I work myself around. If there's a different method you'd like to do, go right ahead. Just remember that we're going to keep our dots centered the best we can. And we're going to work ourselves all the way around. So I finished my row of the Portobello color, and it ties that in nicely as far as a border goes. So now we can focus on the last, I'd say, 2 inches of our mandala. So I'm going to do another array of mirrors. I'm just going to do one and then some nice swoops around it. So I'm going to center this within that 2-inch space. So I'm going to go down from where I did my Portobello color here with the dot. I'm going to count down. So if you notice, because we centered the Portobello on the line, we're going to have a line that's like right below that. It's not enough to do anything with, but it is still a guideline there. So we're going to start at that line. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to count down 4, and the tip of your mirror should rest on that 4th line. You can even make a little X if you want, just so you can see with our pencil. And it will bring it down to 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So your 8th line. That will leave you with 1, 2, 3, and 4 lines to remain. So I have my little stencil here. I'm going to use this little guy here instead of my mirror, and I'm going to trace that out. It's just a little bit quicker in movement, and I like to use these. You can always make your own out of cardstock or paper if you like. All you have to do is trace out your mirror on some dense cardboard or cardstock and then cut it out. If you have a Cricut, you can always, what I did was I scanned in one of these mirrors to 100% scale, and then from there I was able to drop that shape and image into my Xtool creative program, and then I'm able to cut it out on a piece of wood, and then I'm able to keep these. I like these. This works a lot quicker. It's dense, so it's not flimsy. It won't rip. I don't like holding those sometimes because of my nails and other things, so it gets in the way. So I prefer this. Sometimes you can't do this method like I did up here because my dots were wet, but if you think about things ahead of time and plan it, you can most definitely use these kinds of stencils. And all I'm really doing, if you notice, is I'm just lining up the tip of that stencil with my 4th line down. And I'm lining it up on that segment line here that we have. I am doing every single one, so you will have 16 total. We're going to have 16 mirrors here, so make sure you have enough mirrors to do this project as well, guys. I'm unfortunately not going to be doing any kind of kits for this one. It's a little too big. But if you are interested in doing the whole project yourself, step by step as I am, I will have most of these materials readily available on Etsy for you. Probably not so much the Amazon shop, only because it's a little hard to list things on there, but definitely Etsy, you can find all these. So there we go. That took me no time at all. So now I have my mirrors mapped out, and I'm able to understand where they're going to be placed, and then now I can paint around that. So I'm going to get out my brushes and my paints, and then we're going to start a design. So to start off, we're going to go in with our white, just as our highlight. All right. And we're just going to do a quick walking dot around that center, and then from there we're going to do some more swoops. So let's see, we want our size 0 brush. And we want our size 5 dotting tool. Sorry, I had them staggered around. So again, the pink one or the other large one that you have. I'm just going to dot at the base, so it's really like that next line down, and then we're just going to walk that up so until we get to this segment line. Again on this side. And we'll do that for each of these mirrors, and then when we come back we'll start doing our swoops. So we finished doing the white walking dots around the perimeter of the mirrors that we're going to be placing. Now we want to do a series of swoops with our brushes. So I'm going to go in using my size 0 brush. It's a little bit bigger up from the other two small ones. And what I want to do is we're going to make the design where we're going to start right at the base here. We're going to go up and then we're going to go on. And we're going to try to fall in the line of our segment line. So we're going to come out pretty far. So we're going to use quite a bit of colors here. But I am going to focus on doing probably the reds and the portobello, and then maybe incorporating the yellow as well. I'm not sure where we're going to go with that. Might do green instead, so we'll see, because we are doing red. Let me see which ones we can work out, and then we're going to go into it. So grab your 0 brush and let's pick out the color paint. So I decided that we're going to start with red, and so I'm going to dip in with my red. Make sure I get enough on there, and I'm going to start right where the circle, the last largest dot is on our mandala here. So on that line, let me push this back just a little bit. I put my thing on a Lazy Susan so I can move it a little bit better. Alright, so let's see. I think we can move it. We're going to start at the next line down. So right here, I'm going to come around where the dots are. I'm going to end right at that guideline, that segment line that goes straight up. Try to mimic it on the other side. So push down, come around. You have to do it slowly, and meet them together in the center like so. Let's do this one. Alright, and once we're done with this, we're going to repeat the process with our portobello color, and then I think we're going to do greens. So let's finish these up. And then we'll get into the other colors. And there we go. So we're moving right along here. So we finished up our red. So now we're going to go into our portobello again. So same size brush. So we're going to do the 0. And what I want to do now is just move down just a tad. So the next line down, I'm going to place another swoop, and I'm going to do the same thing, same mechanism, going all the way up. As I get up, I want to start tapering inside towards the red. I want to be very careful to not leave any spaces in between the red and the portobello, so they want to be the same. And just take your time on this one, guys. The slightest bit of movement sometimes can really screw up the swoop itself. So take your time with it, focus on it, follow that curve up, and just copy the same thing, and we'll do all of these again. I'll meet back here, we'll keep going with the colors. Alright guys, so now that we've done these colors, I did these colors together if you notice, only because like red cap mushrooms have white and red, and then usually like a portobello kind of colored base to it. So I wanted to keep those together and then branch out from there as far as like grass, things growing around it, moss, right? Those are all things that you'll find within finding mushrooms. So we're going to go with the green because we had a lot of yellow going on here, so we have an abundance of that. That's our focal point with the mushrooms anyway. So we're going to do green again. So I'm going to follow the same pattern of coming down. This time I am going to go up one more again, and I'm going to start with my green. So I'm going to start with the lighter green and work my way out to dark this time, because I did dark here and worked my way out. I want to show more contrast of the darker lush green than the light. So I'm going to start with the light one, which was the Wild Wasabi. Same size brush, and we're just going to working up again. So I'm gonna, instead of this line here, instead of coming down one more, I am gonna work myself up again. So I'm gonna go right here and then go up. And if you want, you can keep moving forward. So basically what you're going to want to do now is the mid-tone color, which is that basil green, it's the middle color green. You're going to go up one more, so right about here. And then the lush green, you're going to go up here. So you're going to end up somewhere around here with those designs. And then from there, we'll work something out to fill in more of it. But in the meantime, let's finish up these light green ones, and then we'll keep going with all the other colors. So you watch that time lapse of all of the colors. So now I have a couple colors I can play around with. So I think I might incorporate the yellow here just to fill in that entire gap with everything, and then do a little bit of a design down here. And then we're done. We just have to focus on these little guys here, and we're going to do the center portion and the mirrors, obviously. So follow along right now. I'm just going to focus on adding my yellows. I think what I'm going to do is go with my darker to my lighter this time. I'm going to flip-flop. So we're starting with the salted caramel first, and then we're going to go from there. So again, I'm using the same size brush, and I'm really just focusing on the next step up. So without putting my hand in paint, like I just did, we're going to try to go here, and then we're going to keep going with the colors. So then deep ochre will be here, and then the saffron yellow will be at the way top. This is going to take some time, so I'm going to do another time lapse of this as well. I just want to show you the placement of all of these so that you know how to do this without watching it on super warp speed. So this is how we're going to get this done, and then once we're finished with this, we can go back through and we can either do some top dots, we can finish out working on these little mushrooms, the wooden ones that we did as well, and kind of seeing where we want to go with that, and then letting it fully dry, I would say, and then varnishing it, and then adding your mirrors at the end. This is going to be a couple steps process throughout this video, obviously. Just hang tight with me, and let's get each process finished together. So in the meantime, I'm going to finish out my yellows here, and then after I'm done with yellows, I'll show you what we're going to do next. All right, so let's get this done. So I finished doing that beautiful design of those swoops that's going to interlock and frame out that beautiful mirror that we have going on. If you notice, what else I did was I took the remainder of my mushrooms I have, I just randomly strategically placed them around the board, and I put them in between so that they are eye level and centered with this design that we did. So we will be gluing those down as well, and maybe just doing a little cascade of a dotting thing at the bottom here. And then we can go in and we can start painting these. In the meantime, I am going to glue these down, and then I'm going to do one little quick thing of probably walking dots. So what I mean by that is, I'll show you real quick. What I want to do is I'm going to get my size 5 dotting tool out again, the stylus. And I want to make, I'm going to do 1 dot in where that portobello was, just to tie that in. And then I'm going to do 1 more right below it. And then what I want to do is I'm going to start on this second to like last line down here, where these, because I have these resting on the last line, basically. The last line I have right here. So the second to last line, I think what I want to do is dot right there, and at a curve, I'm just going to do this by eyeballing it. I'm going to walk that down, and I'm going to do it on the opposite end as well. So I'll do it over here so you can see. And I'm just joining it on the last line. So I'm coming down like, and I'm going to do that for each one. And that just ties in that little negative bottom space. Everything will look great after that. We may do maybe like a swoosh down in this little area as well. We want to go back and focus on the negative areas and feel for if we want to put something there, if we just want to leave it blank. I'm going to put my centerpiece in just to see how it all ties in nicely. But that's that for now, guys. So I'm going to work on gluing these down, doing this, and then I'll come back and we'll show you pretty much almost the rest of it. So let's get going. Hello, my friends. I'm back. So this is actually the next day. If you notice, I have a different shirt on, and I let this dry overnight. I did finish up the ends here where they cascade that little marking here, and I glued these on. This next step I want to show you is basically just doing a nice pink wash on these wooden pieces, and then I'm just going to go in with my markers and fill in some of that color on the mushrooms themselves. After I do that, I'm probably going to let it dry completely, and then I'm going to varnish, maybe do a couple more little top dots here and there, and then we will glue on our rest of our pieces. So for now, I'm going to show you how I do a wash, and then we're going to go in and paint some of these colors. So I'm just going to get an empty paint pot here, and I'm going to fill a tiny bit of that with the blush pink that I have. This is that background color. This is our main color. I'm not going to use too much of this. I probably put about a 1/4 teaspoon in there, not too much at all. It looks like I got a little glop in there from the bottle, so I'm going to take that out. And then what we want to do is we're going to get some water. So I need to find my little water bottle, and we're going to add water to this. Alright, so I got my water bottle. This is just a basic 10 ml, actually 30 ml little squeeze bottle. I don't know where I even got it from, but I like to keep fresh distilled water in this. And so I'm just going to squirt in, I'd say, 2 parts to this paint. So just enough to cover it, you can see. And then I'm going to stir that around. And I'm going to get myself some sort of flat brush. So it's going to be very watery, if you notice. Very watery. Alright, that's what you want. You want it to be very watery. It's going to be like, basically like pink water. There's going to be no consistency to it whatsoever. And then I can either get myself a small detail brush. That's too small, so let's try this one. We're going to try this little detail brush right here because these are pretty tiny. I don't want to use a big brush. I'm going to get myself a wet cloth. Baby wipes really work really well for this too, if you want to try to use something like that. I'm going to dip my brush in, get off some of the excess so it doesn't drip onto your mandala, and then we're just going to paint the top of it, the whole thing, pink. Alright, so it's all nice and covered. And then what we want to do is we're going to blot it just lightly so that you still get some of that pink hue in it. It's probably going to take about 2 thin coats of this to do. So before this dries, you want to do each one. You don't want to paint them all and then go back through, because the paint will soak in. This is basswood, so the paint will soak into these. But we are doing basically like a stain. That's how I've learned how to do this. And it's just a really nice technique. It changes up the color of it. So it's pink, not this like bright wooden color. Now, if you like that wooden color, by all means, you can just leave it the way it is and then maybe paint the mushrooms themselves or just leave them as is. It's up to you. I think if I had more natural wood tone like browns and creams, these would look really nice too, and just leave them as is. So I'm going to go ahead and do all of these and these. So I'm just, like I said, I'm just painting a nice thin coat of this, enough to cover. You'll see it start to seep into the wood, and that's perfectly fine. And then you just want to take a damp cloth and tap it lightly so that you pull up some of that so you can see your mushroom again. And then once I'm finished with these, we'll get our markers out and we'll paint our little mushrooms. So I finished up doing the pink wash on my little mushroom pieces here, and they look great. They look like they're uniformed now. They look like they're more part of the mandala and not so much just something glued on there, right? It gives it this nice appeal and just a really cute little detail that catches your eye. Now, of course, if you have other colors that you're doing, you can always do any kind of wash. You could do brown, blue, purple, red, whatever it is. Just keep in mind high pigmented colors will take a lot quicker than some other ones. Because I did pink, it's a nice light subtle color. If you're going to do something like a real stark blue, use a little bit of paint and a lot of water and go and work in layers. So I am finished with that. So what I want to do now is I'm just going to get out some of the similar colors that we worked with on the inner part of our work here. I'm going to get out some greens. I'm going to get out definitely some whites and creams, and then my red and a little bit of brown, and I think that's about it. I think we don't need to go too crazy with this coloring, but what I want to do is I'm going to find some of them that I feel I can make some red caps in, and then some will probably be some brown and whatnot caps. What I'm going to do is just basically color in this is going to take some time, obviously, guys, and be patient with yourself and enjoy, watch a show or listen to some music, and just take your time on working on these. Go slowly and steady. And then if you want to do these before you glue them down also, if you feel like it's a little hard to reach, by all means you can do that. So I'm going to work on one or two of them with you, and then I'm going to work on most of them outside of the camera here, because it is going to take some time for me to do this, but I do want to just show you what it is that we can achieve. So if you notice, I'm just doing some white, I'm doing some red caps with some white dots. I'm going to do a little bit of a cream color here for the base and underneath. And what I like about the engraving on these is that you'll still see that nice lines. They'll shine through, so that's really great. I'm going to do a little bit of brown as well. And you could just get creative with this, guys. Whatever it is that you want to do. So there's one of them. So really fun, really easy. Maybe I can pick this up and show you. See, so it's a tiny little mushroom guy. It looks great. All right, so I'm going to work on some of those. I am going to glue this down as well, and then I'm also going to do some mirrors, and hopefully we'll be finished. It's coming out really cool. I love the way this looks. It's very simple, but yet it has so many fine details in it, and I think that's what makes a really great piece of art. Again, I'm going to finish up these on my own time. I'm going to come back, and then we're going to do some varnish and finish out our projects, all right? So if you notice, I finished all of my coloring in my little mushrooms. They're all different kind of colors. I really just wanted to stick though with the same color palette that I used here. This is going to need to be glued down as well. I'm considering just doing a few top dots here and there. I might do some top dots on the red and do pink on top. And I really don't have much other dots to do besides the portobello, and I like the way the portobello is giving off that nice border. It separates the two designs, so I'm thinking I might just leave that as is or put red on top. Not sure just yet, but I do know that I'm pretty much set on what I did. I think that maybe doing something around these would be ideal on the bottom, but then again, I don't want it too crowded. If you notice, they are just singly like sitting here. So maybe if we did do something that goes around here, might look quite nice. Maybe do some red and make it pop. I'm thinking that's what we're gonna do. So yeah, we're gonna do some red, I think. And I'm trying to think if we should do a brush stroke around or if we should do some walking dots. I think we should do brush strokes to go around this right here. So I am going to get out my brush. I am going to get out the 2-0 this time. So it's going to be a little bit smaller. And where these dots end here on this last line, I'm just going to fall right there. And I'm just following the curve of the shape of the teardrop. Just, that looks cool. I like that. So we're going to go and do this for each one. And then I think what we'll do possibly is when we come back through, we can do some top dots on those, like walking dots, to finish out the overall dimensional look of that one. I think that will look really cool. Let's finish these up. And then I'm going to go ahead and also I'm going to glue my centerpiece down as well. And then we got to wait till everything's nice and dry. And then we can come in and we're going to do a nice varnish. Since I don't have anything that's glossy or metallic on this one per se, I don't really need to use a gloss varnish unless it's a preference and you like it like that. I'm probably going to do a more matte based varnish on this one. So I'm going to be using a matte varnish. Like I said, you can use gloss if you prefer. So that's going to be that. All right. So we'll finish these up and then we'll get into our finishing. And here we go, guys. So this is our finished, completed look. The varnish has nicely fully dried. It is a nice matte finish. The mirrors are all glued down. We're just going to probably want to go through and clean them up just a little bit of any fingerprints. And then once I finish this, I like to paint my back a solid black color. And I have these special D-ring hooks, so I made these out of my laser cutter. I was able to put my logo, I bevel in the thing and then glue in the D-ring, and then I put this on the back of my mandala. It's a really wonderful piece and it's absolutely unique and different, and I just love the way it came out. I hope you all do too. Try to give these inserts a try and check them out on my Etsy as usual. I always am trying to find new ways of us to improve our mandalas, new things to think about and do, and I think this one is really unique and different. With saying that, I hope you all have a wonderful day, have a great week, and we'll catch you on the next one. Happy dotting, guys. Bye-bye.